I'd like to share with you some of the pointers I provide parents dealing with video games and screen time. And how do you manage this problem without nuclear world war and fighting with your child? First of all, this is a problem for anybody with children, and particularly with ADHD, because ADHD is this need for dopamine because it's not regulated in the brain. And screens provide that source of dopamine, but it's uncontrolled. Kids can't control it, and they need a lot of help. I get asked, how much screen time should a child have? Well, you know, no more than 1.5 hours per day. But how do you control it? Because often the situation is you've got a teenager who gets grumpy, they kind of won't go off their screens, they won't leave their phones, they won't get off their PlayStation. And what do? You know, you kind of convince them it's not good for them, it's going to affect their social skills. But how do you manage that? So one of the things is to have a negotiation, talk to your child. It's got to be a negotiation. You can use screen time as a reward for electronic privileges. Make sure you don't have the device in the bedroom. Make sure that you can gain control of the controllers. And also there are apps that you can place on the devices that can control things. There's an app called Screen Time. There are apps that you can load onto Android, Apple devices, where you can control the IP addresses, URLs. You can make sure that you limit the amount of time. But one of the things I just say is also recognize the importance of screens and computer games. We don't want to completely say to our children, no, you can't, it's bad for you. Because it's also kind of introduces a bit of a generation thing, you know. Kids socialize often online, particularly children with, you know, ASD kind of difficulty with social skills. They find it a lot easier to socialize with other children through video games, and they connect with their friends. So recognize that there is an importance with it, long as it's controlled. And then, of course, you know, the more screen time, the less social skills they're going to develop. One of the things you can do is negotiate, you know, negotiate when it happens, how often, and you can build in incentives. You know, you can have a certain number of minutes per day of electronic privileges, and they only get gained when things are complied with and they kind of meet their targets and chores during the day, like getting ready in the morning. You know, if they take their time, you can say, look, you know, this is eating into your screen time. The more you negotiate, the more you argue, that's just eating into your screen time. So I think we've got to recognize there is certain value in the, but limited. And also to make sure that, you know, we as adults also look at ourselves, because children mirror our own behavior. So those are just the brief outlines, and we go into a lot more detail during a consultation. So if these are problems that you have problems with, also remember medication also helps control self-control. It provides the dopamine that your child actually needs, making sure that exercise, getting outside, further away, outside, further away they are from their screens. So making sure extramurals are provided, make sure they do sports, they involve themselves with play dates. Children would rather do those things if they are given an alternative. So removing the screen, removing those electronic privileges, we've got to replace it with something else. So those are just some brief outlines I thought I'd tell you about that I go through during my consultations and during my assessments.